"Don't cry, mister. You can borrow my mom." The small voice cut through the falling snow like a whisper of grace. Sterling Hayes looked up from his hands, his vision blurred with tears he'd been trying to hide, to find a little boy standing before him. The child wore a red jacket dusted with snowflakes, his mittened hand extended as if offering the world itself. "I'm okay," Sterling managed, his voice cracking. But he wasn't okay. He was 33 years old, sitting alone on a park bench on Christmas Eve, in the exact spot where he proposed to his wife 5 years ago, where they'd come every Christmas since, where he'd held her hand and promised forever, never imagining forever would end so suddenly. The boy tilted his head, unconvinced. "My mommy says it's okay to be sad. She's sad sometimes too, but she says sharing makes it lighter." He paused, his eyes earnest and impossibly kind. "So you can borrow her, just for a little while." Before Sterling could respond, a woman appeared through the snow-dusted evening, her breath visible in the cold air. She was young, perhaps 27, with paint stains on her coat sleeves and flour on her jeans. Her eyes found her son first, then Sterling, and something in her expression shifted, not pity, but recognition, the kind that comes from knowing grief intimately. "Theo, honey, you can't just—" she began, then stopped, seeing Sterling's face. "I'm so sorry. He means well. He has this way of finding people who need a friend." "My mommy is crying at the Christmas tree. That means he's remembering someone who went to heaven, like Daddy." The words hung in the frozen air. Sterling's breath caught. The woman, Autumn, she said her name was, closed her eyes briefly, then knelt beside her son, her hand resting on his small shoulder. "You're very perceptive, sweetheart." Then to Sterling, "We don't mean to intrude. We come here every Christmas Eve, too. It was my husband's favorite place." Sterling found himself nodding, unable to speak. Finally he managed, "Mine too. My wife, Elena. We came here every year. She loved the lights, the snow, the way everything felt possible here." He paused, his throat tight. 2 years ago tonight, on our way home from here, a truck ran a red light. She didn't make it." Autumn's eyes filled with understanding, so deep it was almost painful. She sat down on the bench beside him, Theo climbing into her lap. "My husband, Marcus, died 3 years ago. Heart attack. He just lost his restaurant. The stress, the shame, everything he'd built, gone. I found him in our kitchen, holding a picture of Theo." Her voice wavered but didn't break. "He was 31. We'd been married 4 years." They sat in silence, 3 strangers bound by loss, watching the snow fall around the Christmas tree that had witnessed so much joy and now held so much sorrow. "Are you hungry?" Theo asked suddenly, pulling a small paper bag from his coat. "Mommy made gingerbread men. We were bringing them to people who look lonely." Sterling looked at this child, this impossibly kind boy who saw the world through eyes that had known loss, but chose compassion anyway. Yes, I'd like that very much." Theo handed him a cookie, decorated with careful detail, buttons, a smile, even tiny frosting shoes. "Mommy's really good at baking. She has a food shop now, and she paints too. She says art and food both feed people, just in different ways." Autumn smiled, embarrassed. "The shop keeps us afloat. Barely, but it's honest work, and Theo likes helping me decorate cookies after preschool." Over the next hour, as the snow continued to fall and the park emptied around them, Sterling learned their story. How Autumn had been a promising painter before Marcus died. How she'd sold most of her canvases to pay funeral expenses and business debts that weren't legally hers but felt morally unavoidable. How she'd opened a tiny food shop serving homemade sandwiches and pastries, painting in the spare moments she could steal between kneading dough and balancing books. Some days, I'm so tired I forget what it feels like not to be tired. But then Theo does something like this, offers to share me with a stranger because he thinks you need a mom for a moment, and I remember why I keep going." Sterling pulled out his phone, hesitating, then made a decision that surprised him. "Can I show you something?" He scrolled through photos, not of Elena, though she was there in many, but of a building. "This is a community center my company is renovating downtown. It'll have studio spaces for local artists, a commercial kitchen for food entrepreneurs, childcare facilities. It's been my project for the past year, since I needed something to build that mattered." Autumn's eyes widened. "That's incredible! We're looking for artists and food vendors to anchor the space, people who understand community, who create not just for profit, but for connection." He met her gaze directly. "Would you consider applying? The rent would be subsidized for the first 2 years, and we're offering small business support, legal, financial, marketing." "I don't understand," she whispered. "Why would you—" "Because 2 years ago, I sat in boardrooms making deals that earned millions, while my wife sat in traffic, waiting for a light to change that never would." Sterling's voice broke. "I can't undo that. I can't bring her back. But I can use what I have to help people like you, people who are building something beautiful out of grief, who are teaching their children that kindness matters more than wealth." What Sterling didn't tell her, what she would only discover later, was that the community center was being built on the site of the accident that took Elena. The city wanted to sell the lot to developers. Sterling bought it instead, unable to let that corner become just another commercial space, determined to transform tragedy into something that served the people Elena had loved. Struggling artists, young families, anyone who needed a place to belong. Over the following months, as Autumn's shop took root in the community center and her paintings began to appear in local galleries, Sterling became a regular presence in their lives. Not romantically, though they both understood that grief doesn't have a timeline, that healing isn't linear, but as family. He taught Theo about business, helped Autumn navigate contracts, and slowly, quietly, let himself be part of something living again. One Christmas Eve, exactly a year after that snowy encounter, they returned to the park bench together. The tree blazed with light, family swirled around them, and Theo clutched Sterling's hand on one side, his mother's on the other. "You know what, mister?" Theo said, using the same title he'd used that first night, even though Sterling had long since asked him to use his name. "I think my daddy and your Elena sent us to find you, because you needed us, and maybe we needed you too." Sterling knelt down, eye level with this remarkable child, who'd offered to share his mother with a grieving stranger. "I think you're absolutely right, buddy. And you know what else? Your daddy would be so proud of you, of your kindness, your courage, your huge, beautiful heart." Autumn's eyes shimmered with tears, but they were different tears now, not just of loss, but of gratitude, of healing, of the quiet recognition that love doesn't end when people leave, it simply transforms into something new. "Thank you," Sterling said, standing, looking at both of them, "for seeing me that night, for stopping, for reminding me that we don't have to carry our grief alone." Theo grinned, his cheeks red from the cold. "That's what families do. They share." And Sterling realized, standing there in the snow with this woman and her son, that family wasn't always blood or marriage or the plans we make. Sometimes it's a child brave enough to offer his mother to a crying stranger. Sometimes it's the willingness to sit in grief together and slowly, patiently, build something like hope.
The greatest gift we can offer isn't money or success or even solutions. It's presence. It's the willingness to stop, to see someone else's pain, to say you're not alone. Because in the end, kindness isn't about grand gestures. It's about a small boy in a red jacket, offering to share the person he loves most with a stranger who forgot how to hope. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.